Today on the workbench, I've got a new project. This is a scale Trains ES44AH, and it is one of the CSX heritage units. So I ordered this with no sound, and of course it doesn't come with a decoder either. So what we're going to do with this is we're going to install, I'll get this out here, we're going to put in a NixTrainz Decoder Buddy. This one has 1000 ohm resistors on it. We're also going to be using something new from NixTrainz. This is the Power Bridge 3 2-wire Stay Alive. I don't know if you can see that in the package here, but it comes with two small capacitors. Now we can take, and if you have some spare boards or anything, and we'll have one out of this, but you can actually pull the capacitors off of those boards if you wanted to, and you could use those capacitors with this board. But we're not going to do that. I'm just going to use the two that came with that. We're going to put a scale sound system speaker in this, and you can see the number there, SXTH-1. So we'll have that, and then the decoder we're going to put in it, we're going to put a Blunami, Soundtraxx Blunami decoder in that. So I know before the first comment will probably be, why did you not get it with the ESU? Well, I like Soundtraxx decoders, and I've got a lot of Soundtraxx stuff. So anyway, that's neither here nor there. But to take these apart, rather simple. I say that, and we'll have a heck of a time getting this one apart. We'll pull the couplers off. I will upgrade the couplers to some KD couplers. Yeah, it seems like sometimes the hardest part of those is getting the screw out of the pocket. Anyway, we'll get the one up front here, get it out. Of course, I have done several of these if you go back through and converted them over. I do have a few with the local sound decoders, but anyway, trying to be careful with this. So for some reason, on all of these I do, the front automatically will come up, and I'm just looking to make sure none of this detail is attached to the truck. Okay. Okay. So there's our shell off. Go ahead and set that out of the way. Of course, you can see our board here. I'll end up cutting all of this wiring out, but for now I want to take this piece of tape off. And I really don't change any of the wiring around other than just, you know, to pull the board off. Because I leave all the functions the way they are. So it does kind of look like a mess at that point, but Of course, we've got our motor wires, all that. There's our other board. So I'm just going to go through and cut everything. I'll cut it as close as I can. I don't have to remember what these are because I just use my meter to figure out what everything is. So that's that. That goes through. There is a lot of wiring here. Some of that out. I've got these two back here. Okay. All right. There's all of that. Now we'll get our board off here. What did I miss? Missed that black wire. And two motor wires. Kind of knotted up there. But yeah, if I wanted to, I could pull these two capacitors off because they are the same. And I could put them, you know, with this new power pack. But anyway, light. So now, to get this speaker in, I've got to remove this shell, I guess you'd call it. We'll try and get in there a little bit, but I'll remove this, and so that's my cab light. And just looking at it, looked like it had some glue stuck to it. You can see that white all around that. Yeah, I don't know. I'm going to assume that's glue. And it was supposed to hold that in place right there, I guess. But anyway, I'll redo that. So now I just gotta see, there's some more of that white right in there. I'm not sure what's going on with that. Hope it doesn't affect anything. But anyway, So we've got two screws right here in these pockets. There's one here and there's one here. I think I'm going to loosen this up. Well, I might not have to. Hang on a second. Let's pull this screw out. The less I can take apart, the better. I'm going to have to pull this piece of tape off up front. Because the wiring for these lights will be in the way. So there's that. That off of there. Now let's see. Okay. So here is where our speaker would go, and I believe I have one. That's not it. Well, I thought I had a factory speaker there. I've just got a case in there. So we'll pull this out. There you can see there's the, you could put two mini cube speakers in that if you wanted to. So let's get our scale sound system speaker out. I do need to put some wiring on that. Trying to get some stuff out of the way here. Okay. Let's see, here's what I want. This is 36 gauge ESU wire. So I really do like this wire. It's flexible. It takes solder really well. Yeah. So I'm just going to take care of both ends, and then we'll get this speaker mounted. So let me get these tinned. Get my solder over here. Okay. Recently started using that Chip Quick flux, and it does have a nice odor to it. I've got my wire tinned. Let me get this speaker tinned. And since I'm only using one speaker, I'm not worried about the polarity. There's one side. Okay. And I did leave that wire in a loop, so I've got those extra long. But I kind of did that on purpose because I'm not sure how much I'm going to need. I mean, I could cut it there and waste some, but still. So that just drops right down in there. We'll go ahead and put our screws in. Now, hang on a second. So don't tighten them all the way down when you first go to put them in. There's a little adjustment there on it. So get them all four in. Get all four of your screws in. And then tighten them down. Okay. So now I think I will cut that. And I'm just going to cut it. I'll leave about 5 inches of wire on that. That ought to be plenty. But we'll make sure. There's one side. And there's the other one. Okay. Now let me make sure that I got this right. I got to get everything out of the way. Okay, that'll work. That will work. Just need to string all my wires up through. So I am not going to bore you with that on camera. I'll turn that off and I'll be back here in a second. I've got all the wires back in. I've got that weight back in. So now we're going to take our decoder buddy and we are going to mount it. Let me pull this lighting board off. That way I can get to the screw I need to. And I'm going to put the lighting board up front because, well, I may end up having to extend most of these wires. And I was hoping that I could use the mounting holes in the board. I can use one, but I can't use any more than one. So maybe what I will do instead of that is I'm going to put some double-sided tape on here and we'll tape this thing down. So that way I won't have to worry about using the screws, but that'll set in there just like that. So let me get out my double-sided tape. Oh, first thing I want to do is clean that area off where that's going to go. And I'll get any excess oil off of this thing. Okay. Now we'll get my tape. And I may have to put multiple pieces on here to build that up over top of those mounts that are there. I guess the one thing you could do, if you wanted to, you could mill those off while you had them yeah, I'm gonna have to put another layer on there, but you could mill these pads off if you wanted to. That way the decoder buddy would sit down just a touch lower. But we have plenty of room, so I can take and add just an extra layer of tape. And this will work out perfectly fine. Alright, now, of course, like I say, got a lot of, I will have to extend that wiring. And I'm going to set that back about there. So there is our Decoder Buddy mounted. That gives us plenty of room. I can run this set of wires for this light right up through this mounting hole. Come on. There, I just pulled the light out of its socket. Okay. So there's that. Go ahead and hook our motor wires back up. I'm actually going to cut some of that off because I don't need all of that. And I'll do these one at a time here. But I want to get these hooked up and make sure I've got the right direction. I'm going to put some flux on this and I'll tin that and then try to stick it up through the bottom of that hole. That might make it a little easier. It started to fray on me a little bit. So that out of the way. And I think what I'll end up doing, I'm going to do all this. I'll get this off camera. Okay, there. That one went in. But yeah, I'm going to do this off camera and then I'll come back and I'll show you as I go what I'm doing. Alright, so we've got that one wire in there. I'll get that soldered down. I'll get the other one on it, and then I'll move on to the track pickups so that I can test to make sure this is right. So I'll be back. So I wired up the speaker back here. I knew what those wires were. I've got the motor wired up. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do the track pickups. So we'll look at this mess. We've got 3 red wires and we've got 2 black wires. Now I know this black wire here went to some of the lighting functions. I'm not sure precisely which one, but we'll figure that out at another time. But so you've got 2 black wires and you've got 3 red wires. So here's how you separate these to tell what they are. Of course, I've got the end stripped here. This is where your multimeter is your best friend. So I know I'm looking at this and I can see this red wire down in here that goes to this rear truck. So I'm going to pull, I've stripped that wire, and we'll just do a continuity test on it. So I'll use my meter to determine what wires are what. And so I've already done that with this black wire too. It's already stripped, and it is the other track pickup on that other side. So I'll go ahead now and I'll flux and tin these, and I'll flux and tin the track pickups on the front, and we'll keep on moving along. Alright, I've got out this new power bridge here from NixTrainz, and I've been working on it. Of course, you can see the wiring diagram right there. These are hooked up in series. And so what I've done, I've hooked those up the way that it shows, and this is going to lay right down in where the factory capacitors go. But what I want to do is, so I put heat shrink on these two legs of the capacitors. Now I'm going to get another piece of heat shrink, and I'm going to cover the whole thing with heat shrink. That way we won't have any chance of a short. So let me cut a piece of this off. Keep forgetting to get any heat shrink when I go somewhere. And I don't know why I cut that so big, but I'm going to take a lighter here and that'll get that down. Normally I do this with my soldering iron, but okay. So we've made us up a nice, neat little stuff's still hot. Nice, neat little capacitor, and like I say, it will fit right in here. Yep. I'm trying to work in front of me here. Well, I made my heat shrink just a little too long. So anyway, it will go in there, or I could just lay it right on top. But yeah, so that's our capacitor. Let me take and bend that. Well, all right. I'll kind of do that off camera here in a second. But it does fit in there. I just, after the heat shrinks on there. But anyway, let me go ahead and we'll attach our positive and negative. Our red is our positive wire, and that is the second one over. Always have to look at that. If you're using an ESU power pack, you can use this pad right here. So let me put a little bit of flux on that. And then that third one over is the ground. When I say you can use an ESU power pack, that W means that's the white wire on the ESU power pack that you can turn it on and off with. So all right. So there's our power pack. Now I'll get this thing in here and I'll test it out, make sure everything's good to go, and then I'll be back. Okay, so we're back here. We've got the motor wired, got the keep alive put in the factory position there. It did go down in, I was just fumbling around. But anyway, I went ahead and I've started extending some of these wires. So we've got our rear headlight, and this is the positive for both the rear light and the walkway light, and then this is the function wire for the walkway light. But yeah, so I've got all those extended. The other thing I did, these two front lights up here, these ground lights, I'm going to connect them in series, so I've already hooked them together, and I'll have to extend the leads for that. This light I can go ahead and hook to the light board as is, and then we'll have to do the ditch lights and the front headlight. So there's no time like the present. I'll go ahead and I'll start putting all that together, and then I'll come back. Now I did run this with this keep alive. I don't know if I mentioned it before, but I did run it, and I got about 2.5 seconds of run time out of those two small capacitors. So in reality, that's not bad. If you're running on dead track for longer than 2.5 seconds, well, you probably need to do some track work. But yeah. Anyway, enough of that. I'm going to go ahead and keep working on some of this wire extensions, and then I'll be back after I get them all hooked up, and we'll be good to go. I would like to mention before I go too much further, so I've got these. If you look on these boards now, you can, I guess there's a couple of different ways you can figure out what the wiring is. You can get out your meter, use the meter, or Scale Trains has conveniently, they basically have everything labeled here. So like this red wire for this step light, that's the positive. And then you've got the black wire coming down to it, that's the negative. This rear headlight here, you can see on the board the positive and negative. So that's the red and the white. And in the same way up here on the front board for the ditch lights and all that, and the step light here, I can look at that and I can see that this red wire is the positive for that step light. Let's see, what else? I need to flip this around here and I can probably tell. Yeah, I'll have to get my magnifier out. That black wire, so that red and that black are the lights for that step light. So easy peasy. And I'll hook the two blacks together as one function. So I'll tie that together, and that'll save me a connection on the board. But anyway, so that's another easy way to tell what wire is what on these boards. I've got everything, all of my wires extended. Got the number board glued back in there. So we've got everything traced out, what we need to hook up. So now we're just down to basically the final connections. I've tied some positive wires together. So there's 2 positives. Of course, we'll be able to look up here and see what everything is. I could probably tie this positive into something, but I'm not going to. I'll just leave it the way it is. I do need to extend this one black wire. So, but other than that, I'm ready to start hooking things up. So when I get to that point, I'll come back. I just wanted to show you where we were at, and we'll go from there. All right, I've got this this all completed. Got it back here. You know, I tested it out. Everything works. I kind of wanted to go over where I've put everything for the lighting functions. Let me see if I can zoom in here. Get something to point with. But what I've got, so my left, of course I've got the front and rear headlights. They're on this corner of the lighting board over here. And then my positives I've got coming to each, got 2 here, I got 1 over here on this side, and I've actually got 1 mounted down onto the main body of the Decoder Buddy. Then I'm using A1, A2, A3, A4, and A5. So let's see. And that's A1 is on the front of the board here. That's the left ditch light. A3 is the right ditch light. A2, which is up here, is part of the step lights, and then A4 is the other 2 step lights. And A5 is the number board, so A5 is back over here. So that's where we're at with our install. It is complete. Everything works. And now I'm just going to go ahead and put it all back together. And then the next time you see this, it'll be up on the test track, and we'll give it a run. Alright, we've got this locomotive completed. Got it up on the test track here, and I'm going to go ahead and we'll fire this thing up. Alright, now let's go through. Of course, we've got our headlight, and we've got our number boards, or our ditch lights. And I don't know if you can see that real well, but that's the step lights and the ground lights. I'm looking there to see. Yeah, the ground lights are on, but it's kind of hard to pick up on camera. And then, of course, we've got the number boards. So all the lighting functions work. We've changed out the speaker in this. I did put KD couplers on it. And of course, right now I'm running this with the Blunami app, and it made it much easier to change all the lighting functions around and all that. So we're good with that. So let's I'll just get this moving just a little bit. There's speed step 1. So it does have good slow speed. Bump it up to 2. If I'd turn my overhead light on or off, you'd be able to see those ground lights. But I'll pull it up to where you can see the back. Of course, the only lighting function we have in the back is the headlight and that rear step light. So let's get that up there. Okay, there you can see that. So let me change directions. And you can see the rear headlights come on, and you can see that rear step light down there. So I'll go ahead, bump that up. We'll come back. That's speed step 3. So I'm still kind of playing with the sounds. I don't have the ditch lights flashing yet. I just haven't set that up. So I'm just kind of running through some of the sound functions here. So all the normal functions. And like I say, I do like these Soundtraxx decoders. They have a pretty good sound file in them. So I really like this locomotive. And yeah, all this stuff came together quite well. Works out good. And thanks for watching.